Okay, Pam Bondi. What do I think? I'm getting this more and more. She was the attorney general in Florida for a while, and now she's being picked by the Trump administration to be the attorney general for the United States. She's replacing, there was a guy named Matt Gaetz who was picked to be the attorney general. I got to tell you, he said all the right things. Like if you just wrote down on a piece of paper, everything that Matt wanted to do and agreed with,
he was great.
Sounded great.
Yeah.
But he had a lot of personal baggage.
Yes, he did.
And I was really surprised. We actually turned down the opportunity to host him when he was in town once because he has so much baggage that I just don't trust. Anyway, so that he's gone. Pam Bondi is the next one. And I get it. I get why Republicans like her. She did a lot of really high-profile work for Republicans that Republicans like. So I get why they're all excited. She defended Trump. She was an attorney that was actually defending Trump in certain situations. She worked on election issues that were very important to Republicans. So I totally get it. She was one of the folks that was totally against Obamacare and was very vocal about it and worked to remove at least parts of Obamacare.
Right.
But that's not the Second Amendment.
Right.
Republicans aren't they're not a pro-Second Amendment organization. They're an organization. The people who run as Republicans definitely tend to be more pro-Second, or a higher percentage of them tend to be pro-Second Amendment. But they're not a pro-Second Amendment organization. That's not the purpose of their existence.
Right.
So I'm glad they like what they like, but we have to look at this from a pro-Second Amendment point of view. If the Republican Party were a Second Amendment organization, then we wouldn't have to exist. The NRA wouldn't have to exist. The FPC wouldn't have to exist. GOA and GOC wouldn't have to exist. San Diego County, we wouldn't have to exist. It would just be the Republican Party. They would just be fighting for your Second Amendment rights, but that's just not the reality. She's done some supportive things when it comes to Second Amendment. Like she opposed the semi-auto ban that popped up a few years ago, and she came out against it. She defended Stand Your Ground in Florida, which is an important, Second Amendment self-defense policy. So that's pretty good.
Right.
But she did some things that supported heavily regulating your Second Amendment rights. Like, for example, she was on the wrong side of the Cargill lawsuit, which had to do with bump stocks. She was for banning bump stocks. She wanted to she was very supportive in limiting the rights of 18 and 19 and 20-year-olds from buying semi-autos. So there was kind of this mixed bag. And we're getting to the big one here. But there's kind of this mixed bag. And honestly, when you see someone like this, in my experience, when you see an elected official who has this kind of mixed bag, then it's an opportunity. That's someone you at more than 50% of the time, you can get them through education or, a little bit of strong arming. You can get them to where you need them to be. That's the good news. But there's something in particular I want to show. Go ahead and play the clip. This has to do with
now,
yes.
There are 24 states that are pushing bills that would allow for guns to be taken away from people who are judged mentally unfit. Now, I don't know whether Florida is one of those states, but what do you think about that kind of move?
Well, here's what we're doing in Florida, because we have to have due process, of course, for those who have been civilly committed. And my office, we've done all the legal research, and here's what our proposal is in Florida. It's called the Gun Violence Restraining Order. And so, Stuart, if you're civilly committed, in Florida it's called a Baker Act, what will happen is law enforcement can and should automatically remove any firearms, because that shows you're a danger to yourself or others when you're civilly committed. Then after someone is released from civil commitment, law enforcement will have 72 hours to go before a judge and ask the judge if they choose to hold those guns even longer if they feel that the person is, again, a threat to themselves or to others.
Okay. You've been in the room in the White House when the president was having an open, free-for-all discussion, both sides of the aisle involved. I think, this is my opinion now, I think that has made a significant difference in the gun debate. And you were in the room.
Yeah, I was, Stuart. I was also in the room for a very private meeting recently that the president had with families from Texas, from Sandy Hook, from, of course, Parkland. And he truly cares. And again, this is about finding common ground. That's why nothing ever gets done in Congress, in my opinion. People are so polarized to one side or the other. And, we just experienced a traumatic school shooting in Florida. And it's finding common ground, something that both sides can agree on. And President Trump has been just amazing, listening to these families and really being a mediator, I think, with Congress. And hopefully Congress will follow Florida's lead and what Governor Scott's been doing here in Florida, and all of us working so well together.
Pam Bondi.
Okay. Okay. So. Okay. Okay. All right. So, what she just described there is not the gun violence restraining orders that we have come to know.
Right.
That was a few years ago. And there's kind of this murky weirdness. Basically, what happened is she, like many people, supported a public policy that turned into a monster. Now, I think that she should be held accountable for that, and I'm not completely clearing her. But basically what she was talking about is, and she was very specific, that people who've been legally deemed by, in a court of law, hey, this person is dangerous to themselves or others, so we have to take firearms away. That's pretty much already been happening.
That was already in place before the.
It was already in place before, right?
Right.
So, what's the purpose of this new thing? I think she was attempting to do something good, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and this thing got away from her. I guess what I'm saying is, there's a couple of things. One is she's not perfect, but she's not horrible, and there are some definite negatives. But I don't think the negatives at this time outweigh the positives. I think that the positives include, like, for example, GOA says, hey, we can work with her. Like, they actually vouch for her, Gun Owners of America, and I trust them. I don't know what conversations they've had behind closed doors, but I do trust them as an organization. They've done amazing work. They've never lied. They've always, been non-compromised. They've been amazing. So if they're saying, hey, we'll vouch for her, then okay, that's a definite plus. I'm uncomfortable, but those pluses help me go, eh. But one of the other things that I think a lot of people, I think it's important to point out is this is not the Attorney General for the United States is not an elected position.
Right.
So she's going to be doing in many ways the bidding of people who are much better on the Second Amendment. I'm not just talking about Trump. I mean, Trump's one person. Mm-hmm. He has an enormous team of people. Congress, the Senate and the House of Representatives. I think that it's not the end of the world, but gosh, I sure wish we had somebody who believed in the Second Amendment, like the noise that Matt Gaetz was making without the personal baggage. She definitely doesn't have any personal baggage. She seems to have lived a good life and be a good enough person, but I'm definitely worried about her understanding the Second Amendment, and I think we should continue to support organizations like Gun Owners of America who say, hey, you know what, we're going to make sure that she doesn't screw up this time. So Pat Bondi, I don't know. I don't know what to hope for exactly, but if she is the Attorney General, I think we have somebody we can at least work with. She's not a devout enemy, but she's also not a devoted friend. So